You're standing in a store aisle holding two pairs of boots. The pair in your left hand costs $40, the pair in your right hand costs $180. They look almost the same, and you already know, before you've done any math at all, which pair you're going to walk out with, because there is a number in your checking account, and it is not $180. So you buy the $40 boots, and they're fine. They're fine for about 6 months, and then the sole starts to separate, and by the time the second winter comes around, your socks are wet and you're standing in that same aisle buying the same $40 boots again. 10 years later, you have spent $800 on boots, and your feet have been cold the entire time. The man who bought the $180 pair has spent $180. He is wearing the same boots. They still work. And here's the part that will follow you around for the rest of this video. He is not smarter than you. He is not more disciplined than you. He had $180 and you didn't. There's a name for this. It's usually called the Boots Theory, and it comes from a Discworld novel by the writer Terry Pratchett, where a character works out that being poor is expensive, that the rich stay rich in part by being able to afford the things that stop them from bleeding money. Once you see it, you find it everywhere, and it explains something that looks from the outside like snobbery or waste, because there is a long list of things that wealthy people buy without hesitation that a person struggling with money looks at and thinks, what a ridiculous waste. Who spends money on that? And almost every single one of them is right. It is a waste if you can't afford it. It's a brilliant investment if you can. And that gap between those two sentences is the machine that quietly sorts people into the ones who get ahead and the ones who never quite do. So today, I'm going to show you 18 things wealthy people buy that look, from the outside, like a waste of money. I'll show you what each one actually returns. I'll be honest with you about the ones that genuinely are a waste, because some of them absolutely are, and I'll show you the one purchase that unlocks every other item on the list, which almost nobody talks about because it's boring, and it isn't a purchase at all. And stick around, because at the end, I'm going to walk you through two men on identical salaries and add up exactly what it costs. One of them to be broke. The number is going to make you angry. Let's start with the boots. Number 1, things that are built to last. The $40 boots aren't a mistake, they're a symptom. And the same pattern runs through everything you own. The cheap frying pan whose coating flakes off in a year. The particle board bookshelf that sags in the middle and gets left on the curb during the next move. The $12 umbrella that turns inside out in the first real wind. Cost per use is the only honest way to price an object. A $180 pair of boots worn for a decade costs you $18 a year. $40 boots replaced every winter cost you $80. The expensive one was always the cheap one. And the person who buys well once, rather than badly forever, stops shopping. That's the hidden dividend. They've bought their Saturday back. Number 2, tools that outlive them. Walk into a wealthy person's garage and look at the tools. There aren't many of them, but the ones that are there will be there in 30 years, and probably get handed to somebody's kid. Now look at the cheap tool. It's a wonderful thing right up until the moment it strips a screw, snaps under load, or rounds off a bolt head so completely that a $40 repair becomes a $400 one. That's the real cost of a bad tool. It isn't the tool, it's the thing the tool ruined. If you use something once a decade, rent it or borrow it. If you use something every month, buy the good one once and stop thinking about it. Number 3, a very good mattress. You will spend roughly a third of your entire life on this object. A third. There is no other purchase in your home that you use for 8 hours every single day. And a bad night's sleep does not stay in the bedroom. It follows you into your work, your patience, your judgment, your driving, your relationships, and your appetite. Poor sleep is linked to worse decisions in almost every domain researchers have looked at. Spread a good mattress across 10 years of nights, and it costs you cents per night. The cheap one costs you the same money, eventually, plus a decade of waking up already tired. This is the pattern again, and you're going to see it 17 more times. The wealthy aren't buying comfort, they're buying the removal of a small daily tax. Number 4, the chair. If you sit for a living, you sit for something like 2,000 hours a year. And a $900 chair is genuinely absurd, until you divide it across the 10 years it will last and the 2,000 hours a year you'll spend in it. Then it costs about 4 cents an hour to protect the one back you were issued at birth. A back injury does not cost $900, it costs surgery, physiotherapy, missed work, and a permanent expensive limitation on the kind of work you can ever do again. The chair isn't furniture, it's insurance on your ability to earn. Number 5, preventive maintenance. Here's the one that costs the most money, silently, in the most homes. 2 dental cleanings a year at a couple of $100 feel skippable. Nothing hurts, so you skip them. And 5 years later, something hurts a great deal, and the bill is a root canal and a crown and thousands of dollars you did not have. An oil change is $60. An engine is $2,000. A roof inspection is a renovation. And here's the cruelty of it. Preventive maintenance is precisely the expense you cannot justify when money is tight. Because nothing is broken. There is no emergency. There is only a bill for a problem you cannot see. So it gets pushed to next month, and next month until it stops being maintenance and becomes a catastrophe. Wealthy people don't have better teeth because they have better genes. They have better teeth because they were able to spend money on a problem that hadn't happened yet. Number 6, buying it outright. Watch what happens at a rent-to-own store, and you will understand more about money than most economics classes will teach you. A refrigerator sells for around $1,200. A person who has $1,200 pays $1,200. A person who does not pays $30 a week for 2 years and hands over 2, sometimes 3 times the sticker price for exactly the same cold box. The poor person pays more for the identical object, not because they're careless, because they lack the $1,200. This is what the phrase, "it's expensive to be poor," actually means. It's not a slogan, it's an arithmetic fact, and it repeats itself across furniture, appliances, cars, tires, and every 4 easy payments button. On the internet, cash isn't just money, cash is a discount that only certain people are allowed to use. Number 7, paying annually instead of monthly. Look closely at almost any bill you pay every month, and you'll find a quiet offer buried in it. Pay for the year up front, and it's cheaper. Insurance does this, software does this, gyms, phone plans, subscriptions, professional memberships, nearly all of them will shave 5, 10, sometimes 20% off if you can hand them the whole year at once. Which means the person with $1,000 in the bank pays less for the exact same product than the person with $40 in the bank. Again, every one of these things is small, $20 here, $80 there, but they stack silently in the same direction all year for your entire life. Nothing. That's not a joke. Number 8 is nothing at all. Wealthy people keep money sitting in an account, doing nothing, earning almost nothing, going nowhere. And from the outside, that looks insane. Why would you leave thousands of dollars idle when it could be working? Because that idle money is not idle, it's a force field. It's the reason they never pay an overdraft fee, never take a payday loan, never finance a broken transmission at 26% interest, never take the first bad job offer because rent is due Friday, never sell an investment at the bottom of a crash to cover a hospital bill. An emergency fund earns you a terrible interest rate and an extraordinary return. It is the single highest value thing a person without money can build, and it is the thing every financial system in the world is designed to prevent you from building. If you take one thing from this video, take this one. Number 9, insurance on things that would ruin them. Here's a rule that clarifies almost every insurance decision you will ever make. Insurance is a terrible deal for losses you could absorb. It's a brilliant deal for losses that would destroy you. So the extended warranty on a $400 television is a bad purchase. If it breaks, you're annoyed, not homeless. But term life insurance, when your body is the machine that generates every dollar you'll ever earn, those aren't waste. Those are the difference between a bad year and a destroyed family. Broke people are sold insurance on the small stuff, at the checkout counter, where the margins are enormous. Wealthy people buy it on the big stuff, quietly, where it actually matters. Number 10, a will. Nobody wants to spend a weekend and several $100s contemplating their own death. It has to be the least appealing purchase on this entire list. But dying without one hands your family a legal process that is slow, public, expensive, and entirely out of their control, at the exact moment they are least able to handle it. An estate plan is not a rich person's indulgence. It is the last and possibly the kindest financial decision you will ever make on behalf of people you love. If you have children, or a partner, or anything at all that you'd want to go somewhere specific, the paperwork costs less than a decent phone. Number 11, a great accountant. Here's a sentence that makes people uncomfortable. The tax code is not a set of rules you obey. It's a set of instructions you follow. And it is long, technical, and full of provisions that reward the people who know they exist. Retirement account structures, deductions you're entitled to, ways of organizing a small business or a side income that are entirely legal and entirely invisible to someone doing it alone with software at midnight. Paying a professional a few $100s to find a few thousand is not an expense. It's one of the highest return transactions available to an ordinary person. The wealthy don't have a secret tax code. They have somebody whose entire job is reading the one everybody has. Number 12, a lawyer before there's a problem. Poor people hire lawyers after the disaster. Wealthy people hire them before it. 2 hours of a lawyer's time spent reading a lease, a contract of partnership agreement, or an employment offer before you sign it will cost you a few $100s. 2 hours of a lawyer's time after you've signed something you didn't understand is the beginning of a much longer and more expensive conversation. Every business you've ever heard of runs its documents past someone who understands them. Every person who's ever been quietly wrecked by a clause they skimmed did not. Read the contract, and if the contract matters, pay somebody who reads them for a living. Number 13, time. This is the one that makes people angriest, so let's do it carefully. When a wealthy person pays somebody to clean their house, mow their lawn, or handle their bookkeeping, it looks like laziness. Sometimes it is, but often it is a calculation, and it goes like this. What do I earn per hour, and what does this hour cost me to buy back? If you earn $80 an hour and you can hand somebody $30 to reclaim that hour, you have not spent $30. You have bought $50. And here's the honest part. If you earn $18 an hour, this math does not work. And anyone who tells you otherwise is selling you a course. You cannot outsource your way out of not having money. But the principle underneath still applies to you. Your time has a price, and you should know what it is. Because some of the hours you're spending to save money are costing you more than they save. Number 14, their own body. Look at what wealthy people spend on food, on movement, on sleep, on doctors they see before something is wrong. And then look at what happens to a person who cannot afford any of that. Cheap calories that make you sick slowly. A job that destroys your back. No time to cook, no time to walk, no money for a doctor until it's an emergency room. Poor health is the most expensive thing a human being can own. It costs money, and then it costs earning power, and then it costs years. Nobody is asking you to hire a chef, but of everything on this list, the compounding on this one runs the longest. A body that still works at 65 is not a lifestyle choice. It is in cold financial terms the most valuable asset most people will ever have, and it is the only one you cannot buy back later at any price. Number 15, therapy. There's an old idea that therapy is a luxury for people with nothing real to worry about. The opposite is closer to the truth. Think about what unmanaged anxiety, depression, or unprocessed trauma actually costs in money over a life. The jobs left, the relationships broken and rebuilt, the impulsive spending that soothes a feeling for one evening, the opportunities not taken because the fear was louder than the ambition. None of that appears on a bank statement as therapy. It appears as 100 smaller line items spread across decades that nobody ever adds together. Your brain is the instrument you use to make every financial decision of your life. Maintaining it is not indulgence. It's maintenance, and we already covered what happens when you skip that. Number 16, knowledge, books, courses, certifications, conferences, coaching. And I want to be very careful here because this category is where the largest amount of money gets wasted by people who can least afford it, and I'll come back to that in a minute. But done right, this is the highest return purchase a human being can make. A $300 certification that moves you into a job paying $8,000 more per year returns its cost in 2 weeks and then keeps paying every year for the rest of your working life. The wealthy don't buy knowledge because they enjoy learning, though many do. They buy it because a skill once purchased cannot be repossessed. It survives layoffs, it survives recessions, it moves with you. Number 17, the room. This is the one nobody wants to say out loud because it sounds unfair. It is unfair. It's also true. Wealthy people pay to be in rooms with other people. Memberships, industry conferences, dinners, associations, things that produce no visible product. And look, to an outsider, like an expensive way to eat mediocre chicken. What they're actually buying is proximity. Jobs, deals, partnerships, and opportunities travel through people, not through job boards. A very large share of positions are filled before they are ever advertised. And you don't need money for the fanciest version of this. The free version exists, and it works. Show up to the local meetup, answer the question in the forum, help somebody with no expectation, be the person people think of. The rich buy the room, you can still walk into it. Number 18, boring investments. And finally, the thing that looks the most like doing nothing at all, they put money into broad, dull, low-cost index funds, and then, this is the hard part, they leave it there. Through crashes, through the friend at the barbecue with the hot tip, it generates no stories. Nobody asks about your index fund. There is no version of this that is exciting, which is exactly why almost nothing else works. Because compounding pays people who wait, and waiting is only possible if the money underneath you is never needed for an emergency. Which brings us all the way back to number 8, and to the reason that idle money in a boring account is the most powerful purchase on this list. You cannot be patient if you are drowning. Now, before we add all this up, I owe you some honesty because I've spent 20 minutes making rich people sound wise, and plenty of them aren't. Here's what wealthy people buy that genuinely is a waste of money. The watch that costs as much as a car and tells the same time as your phone. The badge on the hood, on a vehicle that is mechanically worse than the sensible one. The house with rooms nobody enters. The whole life insurance policy sold as an investment by a man on commission. The $8,000 course from a guru whose only demonstrated skill is selling $8,000 courses. Status is not an asset, and the difference between everything in the first list and everything in this one comes down to a single question you can ask about any purchase. Forever. Does this thing pay me back? The mattress pays you back. The watch doesn't. The certification pays you back. The logo doesn't. That's the whole test. And there's a second thing I owe you, and it matters more than anything else in this video. If you are broke, the things on this list are not available to you, and that is not your fault. The $40 boots were the correct decision. When there is $100 in your account and the boots cost $180, the fact that they'd save you $600 over a decade is completely utterly irrelevant. You cannot spend money you do not have to save money you will not see for 10 years. That isn't ignorance. That's arithmetic. Researchers who study poverty describe something like a bandwidth tax. That scarcity itself consumes mental capacity, so that people forced to make constant trade-offs under pressure have less attention left for long-term planning. It isn't that poor people make worse decisions. It's that they are forced to make far more decisions with far less margin, and any single mistake costs them more. So this video is not a lecture about being smarter. Nobody was ever lectured out of poverty. It's about something narrower and more useful. The entrance fee to the good side of every one of these trade-offs is smaller than you think. And it isn't a mattress, or a chair, or an accountant. It's number 8. It's the cushion. Everything else on this list becomes available the moment you have a little money that isn't already spent. Let me show you exactly what that cushion is worth. Meet Ray and Dev. Same age, same city, same job, same employer, same salary. $52,000 a year, same intelligence, same work ethic, same taste in boots. One difference, Dev has $2,000 in a savings account. Ray has $41 and payday is Thursday. Watch what happens over the next 10 years. Ray's card gets declined at the grocery store, then processes anyway. Overdraft fee, it happens again the next month, and the month after, because the gap between when bills land and when he gets paid never quite closes. Call it $35 a time, roughly a dozen times a year. $420. Ray's paycheck goes to a check cashing place, because a minimum balance requirement is a wall he can't get over. $200 a year to access his own money. Ray's fridge dies. He does not have $1,200. He has $30 a week, so he signs a rent-to-own contract and pays for that fridge twice. Spread across his BNPL purchases and that contract, $600 a year in pure interest. Ray buys the $40 boots, the cheap tires, the pan that warps. $400 a year buying things twice. Ray skips the dental cleaning, skips the oil change, ignores the noise the car is making. Amortized across the root canal and the transmission, $700 a year. Ray pays his car insurance monthly because he cannot pay 6 months up front. $180 a year for the privilege. Added up, $2,500 a year. Ray is not lazy. Ray is not stupid. Ray is not spending it on anything. That money buys him nothing whatsoever. It is a fee charged annually for the crime of not already having money. Over 10 years, being broke cost Ray $25,000. Dev, on the exact same salary, pays almost none of it. His $2,000 cushion means the fridge is bought outright, the insurance is paid annually, the boots last a decade, and the car gets its oil changed. And because he never bleeds that $2,500, he does the boring thing with it, $208 a month, into a boring index fund. 10 years later, Dev has about $36,000 and a cushion. Ray has nothing and the same $41, and payday is still Thursday. And if Dev simply leaves it alone and keeps going, at 30 years, that same $208 a month is worth more than $250,000. Two men, same paycheck, a $2,000 difference at the starting line, and $250,000 difference at the end of it. So here's what I want you to do, and it isn't buy a mattress. Build the cushion, not 6 months of expenses. That number is so far away it's paralyzing. Build $500, that's it. $500 is the amount that stops the overdraft, absorbs the flat tire, and ends the payday loan. Set up an automatic transfer for the day after payday, even if it's $15. Sell the thing in the closet, take the overtime once, and when the $500 is there, do not touch it. Because what you have built is not money, it's a door. Then, once, buy the good boots. Because remember where we started. You, in the aisle, holding 2 pairs knowing exactly which one you were going to buy and exactly why. There was never anything wrong with your judgment. You were making the only rational choice available to you at the time. This whole video was about getting you to a place where the other choice becomes available. Nobody is coming to hand you $180, but nobody has to. You just have to reach the aisle with the money already in your pocket. And after that, for the rest of your life, your feet are dry.